The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday.
Oh, no, not already.
It's it, and at the end of the week. And, well, again, we have to talk about the wonderland of Oz that we live in and some of the convoluted perspectives. So I guess we've got a little... We've got a little controversy going here. The mayor is making accusations of conspiracy and collusion because somebody had the audacity to disagree with him or take a position that he's not in favor
I know.
of. I mean,
terrible.
I can't believe those people. How dare they?
I know, but you know, he's got to get a break.
Have a dissenting opinion.
He's got to get a break next week. You're away for 2 days.
Yeah.
You're not going to be here for Monday or Wednesday, so he's going to get a break. You will be back on Friday.
Conference, yeah. I'll be back Friday, loaded for beer. But yeah, it's hard for me to even comprehend this stuff because I'm looking at this Herald News article and it talks about some city councils want to dip into the Streetscapes fund to repair roads and sidewalks. Wow, what a bizarre idea. I mean, the whole idea of Streetscapes was to improve the streets, but only in specific areas, normally areas where the mayor's friends have property. But then these insane, absolutely just totally possessed by the devil councilors decided to take some money out and actually use it for streets that are in dire repair. I will begin, I'll quote the first sentence of this article. The abysmal, in case some of you don't know what abysmal means, it means really bad. The abysmal conditions of roads and sidewalks around the city have prompted some city councilors to eye a portion of the nearly $10 million in bonded money slated for Mayor Joseph Camara II's Streetscapes initiative to step up repair efforts. Now, let's fix the streets of the people who actually live in the city. Let's not put the lipstick on the pig on Purchase Street for those phantom tourists that are all going to flock down there. Or as Councilor Long said in this article, why we should not do this, because Streetscapes, and this is a quote, "It's the foundation for moving forward," unquote, Long said. Well, Councilor Long, if that's the foundation for moving forward and forward, we're in trouble. And by the way, just for the record, we don't have to move forward according to you. CJ, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Councilor Long the man who referred to Fall River as a thriving metropolis? He said when he looked at Fall River, he saw a thriving metropolis. Now, do thriving metropolises need facelifts?
And remember, that's after 8 generations.
8 generations of sucking off the public dole. Oh, I'm sorry. The 3 musketeers, or maybe they're the Mouseketeers, obviously there's a feud going on because people, anybody that disagrees now is going to be vilified, even though that's the foundation of this nation. That we have the right to have a differing opinion, even if you're the only person. You have a right to dissent. It's a constitutional right to dissent. It's not only that; it's an obligation.
I don't know. It just seems terrible. But I'll tell you now, you have Joe Camara, who stopped this by a procedural objection, which, by the way, was out of order because the objection was given after the debate and after the vote had already started. An objection is to not even discuss the matter. Oh, wait a minute. But there was no parliamentarian available to say, no, sorry, it's too late for that.
No, you have a parliamentarian sitting in one of the chairs that decides to interpret everything in his own manner. And we all know that, Joe didn't know what he screwed up and he voted against the mayor for like a millisecond. And then he heard the clerk reading the motion. He went, oh, God, I voted against the mayor. Wait a minute. No, I didn't mean yes. I meant no. No, did I say no and mean yes?
But that's the problem here. We have city councilors which are voting for or against the mayor. Excuse me, City Councilor Camara, City Councilor Camara, and City Councilor Long. You don't vote for or against the mayor. You are voting for or against the residents who elected you.
And obviously, fixing the streets should have been actually a priority, as far as I'm concerned, for our representatives.
That's right. And guess what? But City Councilor Camara said, no, I object. So, City Councilor Camara, you object to repairing our city streets? You object to repairing Fallujah? That's what we have, Fallujah. That's what this is.
I think actually it's a little bit better. And actually, the other Camara, Steve Camara, councilor, said in this article, quote, a real issue with us is changing our mind. You didn't change your mind, Councilor Camara, because the original Streetscapes, and this is a quote, according to the language in the order, the Streetscapes project would not proceed, quote, until our streets and sidewalks are in much better condition, unquote. So guess what? The 6 councilors who tried to actually fix streets where people who pay taxes live on were actually interpreting this correctly. They want to fix the streets and put them in better condition before we proceed with putting lipstick on pigs. But of course, you don't agree, the mayor doesn't agree, and Joe Macy doesn't agree. And, that's the problem. This is all about the fact that anybody who doesn't fall in lockstep is considered, you're in collusion, it's a conspiracy, and it's everything else. So I'm going to quickly, there was a long speech, but this is a quote from President Theodore Roosevelt. When people were talking about you shouldn't, you can substitute mayor for president or any political official, because the point is it's about the ability to dissent, your freedom of speech. This is a quote from President Theodore Roosevelt. To announce that there must be no criticism of the president, or that we are to stand by the president, right or wrong, is not only unpatriotic and servile, but it is morally treasonable to the American public. So, every time you get upset because people make a criticism, remember the words of one of our greatest presidents. He actually said in another speech, he wants you to criticize him when he does something wrong. Give him credit when he does something right, and by all means criticize him. That's what America's supposed to be. The fact is that, and I'm not talking about personal attacks. You don't say, I think his hair looks like it's got, axle grease in it, or his nose is too big, or, or make disparaging comments about the individual or anybody, and get personal with stuff. I'm talking about criticisms about policy, criticisms about decisions that affect the taxpayer, that affect the people of Fall River. You have every right to disagree, even if you're the only one who does disagree. And, that's something that the politicians have been trying to condition the public with the old Goebbels method. Tell a lie, a big enough lie enough, and people will begin to believe it. They're trying to convince us that a democracy is when everybody agrees with the person who's supposedly running it. Well, it's not a democracy. That's a dictatorship. So, this is, this is only one of the continued symptoms of one of the problems we have, that everything is being relegated to, if you're against me, you're an obstructionist, or there's a conspiracy. And because I guess we couldn't accuse the 3 people who haven't voted against the mayor. I mean, if, as I said, if he wanted to put stocks and pillars from the colonial era to punish people who disagree with him on the front steps of Government Center, they would vote yes. So this is, I mean, this whole scenario is disturbing. And then Councilor Aponte apparently brought a 24-page pavement management plan which identified streets and sidewalks in need of repair. He brought a picture of a giant pothole in front of the Laterno School. But the hell with that. Why should we fix potholes in front of schools and potholes on the roads where the taxpayers live? Let's fix Purchase Street where I live and where my buddy owns property. So that's it. The hell with giving $8 million to the people to fix their streets. And they talked about one street. What street did he spoke that, well, look at the, I paved more streets than anybody else, and he mentioned one street, I guess is his gem. But if you go to that street, you'll find out it's only got the sub base. It's not finished. The manhole covers are about 3 inches above the blacktop. It hasn't got the finished coat on it. So again, another political half-truth. Another political spin. Oh yeah, I put a base coat on it. Well, the manhole covers are not, it's not a finished street. So this whole scenario is just ridiculous. And I know, CJ, you're swining on those raisins. Your blood sugar's low. So.
No, I'm doing pretty good today. No, but I think what's interesting, and I think what's more insulting than anything else to the people of Fall River, is that you have a city councilor, namely Joe Camara, who objected, and this is my interpretation, people, who objected to fixing your city streets. You have a corporate council who objects to fixing your city streets because he said, and I'm going to quote him, the bonds are written for specific purposes, and because of that, I don't think we can take the money out for fixing your streets. But they were able to take the money out of the bonds for streets to fill the incinerator pit. Oh, I wonder, wait a second.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Was that part of the bond?
It must have been.
Fill the incinerator pit? I don't think so.
I don't think it was in there for that either. But the mayor did that. The mayor did that so he could hire a questionable company.
And remember one thing, CJ, what you said. It was very clear. He said, I don't think that you can use the money. Because guess what? He's not, I'm the judge. Even though he likes to say, I'm the judge. I'm a judge. You're not a judge anymore. You're a shill for the mayor. You're like a mob lawyer. You take care of the mob. And the mob is on the 6th floor. So you're taking care of the people up there. Your opinions are fashioned, and they are, by the way, just that. And that's the thing. That's the other big lie that they've tried to perpetrate on the people of Fall River. That somehow the Corporation Counsel is the oracle at Delphi. That everything every opinion he brings down is like a Supreme Court decision. That is the law. No, it's not. It's an opinion. It's an opinion, and those opinions, if you took 10,000 opinions from a corporation council, you would be hard-pressed to find one opinion that differed with the mayor's position, because that's what that's who they work for. It's like a lawyer. You pay your lawyer, he's on your side. The other guy pays his lawyer, that lawyer's on the other guy's side. They're lawyers. And what they are is fundamentally, they're like hookers. You rent them for a while, and when you're gone, they got your money and they go home, and they don't really, that's what they are. Because they don't have any real dog in the fight. They're making money. They represent their client, and they do it supposedly to the best of their ability. but that's the nature of the job. That's why lawyers are not, the most popular profession in the world, because basically they don't care whether you're right or wrong. They will plead your case if you pay them. And that's the reality. That blind justice, the mistress of justice with the two scales, that was gone a long time ago. And any attorney will basically tell you, you pay me, I'll go to court and I'll fight for what your side is, whether it's right, wrong, or indifferent. There aren't too many attorneys that will throw you out of their office if you tell them you're going to pay them, especially big-time attorneys. You're going to go in there and give them their $125,000 retainer. They don't care if you're, they'll defend you if you're Adolf Eichmann. So, but that's a reality. And I'm not saying
Lady Justice isn't.
I'm not saying that this, it's a fact. That's why there was an old joke about, they did a study and they found out that white mice were liked a lot better than people than lawyers were, because you can become attached to a white mouse, but you can't really become attached to a lawyer.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Lady Justice is blind, and that's why she has the scales, because she weighs the money.
Exactly. So, but that's the other thing that irritates me, because, we've seen numerous times in this city where not only this mayor, but other mayors have basically, and their administration, whether it was Kathy Ann, her predecessor, they go down there, and when it's to their benefit, they portray the Corporation Counsel's opinion on an issue as fundamentally the law.
That's right.
This is it. The Corporation Counsel says this. And this is why it always disturbed me when there was always this pushback of, the city council shouldn't have their own lawyer. The reality is, there's an old adage, you can't fight City Hall. You know why you can't fight City Hall? Not because City Hall's always right, but City Hall never runs out of money, because they're fighting you with your own tax dollar.
Which I always find very interesting.
And the reason most people don't fight City Hall is they don't have $500,000 to take a case and keep pleading it to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, and they'll go bankrupt doing it. And, the majority of cases, not only against cities, but against big businesses, how many times do you know that people have, they've had a good case against big business, and they say, well, do you really want to do this? It's going to take you, they're going to tie you up in court for 10 years, and it's going to cost you millions of dollars. And unless they got a case that's going to realize millions and millions of dollars, it's not economically feasible.
But the thing that bothers me about this is we file a lawsuit against the city or a town or the state, and they use our money to defend themselves against that lawsuit, and we have to pay our lawyer to fight that case. And then when you win the case, because in most cases, especially with Fall River, you win, although the last case we did lose only because City Councilor LeBeau sold out the taxpayer by voting for the budget the way she did. And that's what fired 42 DCM workers. Remember that, Councilor LeBeau? Sorry, but I got to state the facts the way they are. So we pay for it, and then we never get the money back anyhow. And is the savings in the long run worth it? That's why you can't fight City Hall, because you're fighting yourself.
Yeah, and they have unlimited resources, because they don't care how many times they appeal, because that guy's getting you're paying a lawyer's salary that's fighting you, and you're paying your lawyer. And to show the total ridiculousness of the system, our wonderful judicial system, is when you go to the labor relations aspect of the court, that
something you know nothing about.
I won 99.9% of everything I have, whether it was unfair labor practice, grievances, arbitrations. I won all my arbitrations in front of the JLMC. But the fact is, if you file a grievance and the city was 100% wrong, and they knew they were 100% wrong from the get-go, but they fight you through arbitration, then they appeal it to court, then you gotta go to court, and it costs thousands and thousands of dollars. But we went in arbitration because it was an obvious violation of a contract, and guess what? We can't recoup the legal fees that we spent from the city, because it's in the law that you have to share equally for the costs. So it's not like, you know, because I always wanted winner take all. Because the reality is that the average citizen or the average labor union is not going to file frivolous grievances. They don't have that kind of money. Unless you're a huge local like New York City or maybe Boston that's got, you know, 3,000 guys in there and they're all paying dues, and they got they got their own building and a restaurant, and they rent out the hall for weddings, and it's a very, very wealthy local. They can afford maybe to do some stuff. But the average local doesn't have, you know, $100,000 to pay a lawyer to go through these frivolous grievances, and one after the other. So the only grievances that unions normally file are grievances that they have a very, very good chance of winning, because they're not going to basically waste money on BS grievances, where the city and department heads will violate the contract routinely because there's no consequences. What happens? Nothing. The union files a grievance. You go. The union wins. They go, okay, now we'll do it the right way. Department head isn't censured for not following the contract. We just, city sends their lawyers up there. Their lawyers get paid. We have to pay our lawyer. And, you know, I actually had a former fire chief told me one time when I went in on a grievance and said, this is, you know, one of the most obvious, you know, contract violations I've ever seen. And he looked me right in the eye and said, yeah, I know I'm violating the contract. And I went, well, stop. He said, no. That's the way I want to do it, and I'll do it until an arbitrator orders me to do it the right way, the way it is in the contract. Did he get, when he lost that grievance, did he get his pay docked? No. Did he get a disciplinary day off? No. But that's the problem with the system. The system is not only when it comes to Boston and their pay raises and stuff, you know, we have our political system and our judicial system has evolved, or I'd like to say it actually devolved into where the average person doesn't have, it's stacked against you. The odds are against the regular person. When you go to court, you got to pay for lawyers. And when, you know, if it's in Boston, forget about it. We're not going to get a tax break. We're not going to get any kind of break, but they're going to get their pay raises. So, you know, the system is broken, and we get back to that old thing we always say, vote them all out. The only answer to this is a revolution, and it's got to be at the ballot box, because you can't pick up your musket.
It's not 1776 anymore.
And go out there and fight the British and hide behind a tree. Now, if you go out there with a musket, police departments look like army units now. They got Humvees and tanks and everything else. So,
speaking of which, as we brought up at the last time, you know, we bond all this money, bond it for Streetscapes. And by the way, people, you can go to frgtv.us and click on Video on Demand, and you can watch the mayor's presentation of his speech, of his Streetscapes program, and guess where it focuses on? I'll give you $1 million if you can't figure it out. So he's focusing on Purchase Street and I guess 200 Bank. I guess that's the premier building, which I think is a conflict of interest, but that's another story.
yeah, since he lives on the street,
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he should be advocating.
But, you know, he's driving around in a police vehicle, okay, that was bonded for, because they bonded for 10 police vehicles, but they got 11, and the 11th one was actually the first one, and it went to the mayor. But we have vehicles that don't have engines, police cruisers without engines, without transmissions. But the mayor's SUV came first. So remember that, taxpayer. When you get mugged, when your house gets broken into, when your car gets broken into, Maybe it's because the mayor had a car and a police officer didn't.
Well,
But hey, I mean, again, my interpretation, I could be wrong, but
it's not an interpretation. The fact is, if they haven't gotten any new police cruisers, we know they're in deplorable condition. Otherwise, somebody
abysmal.
Yeah, we can use abysmal again. Yeah, deplorable or something like that. But that's probably now for Trump supporters, the deplorables. But look, I mean, I think the mayor was quoted as saying they're going to get theirs at some point in time. But then again, here's our priority. Here's the mayor's priority, that we want to fix Purchase Street, which is not on the list of the 10 worst streets in the city, before we fix streets for the taxpayer. Why? Because his friend owns property there. He lives on the street. He's going to put lipstick on a pig. So we're going to put facades, which are just that. It's a facade, just like if you put a pretty picture of Fall River, it's a facade.
That's right.
And you get in there, get it today. But the thing is that it's about priorities. The priority was not bad streets in Fall River, abysmal streets. It's his streetscapes for his friends. Same thing with the police cruisers. That the police officers are going to wait. So what the mayor is telling me, in my opinion, is it's more important for me to have I don't know what
a new party bus.
Well, like there's a euphemism now that they use, some kind of ride. I don't know, pimped out ride.
Yeah, he wants a pimped out ride.
For me, it's better for me to have a pimped out ride and have a police officer responding to an emergency to protect the public, driving a car with 185,000 miles and the engine blows up halfway to the call. So, I mean, to me, that's just not in the best interest of the people. If
Just like when we had fire trucks that couldn't start up.
Maybe they've changed it. Wasn't the captain always went down with the ship?
Yep.
Or he was the last one to leave the ship?
Yep.
But I guess now the new adage is me first.
That's right. And when did the fire service get new fire trucks? When they had a truck or two sitting at a fire scene, then they weren't operational. Well, not like it was important. The building's burning to the ground, right? I mean,
yeah.
When did they get new turnout gear?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, he's making his radio show now, his new political campaign ads, which might be questionable. But I want the zombies out there and the twofers. There's another term for you guys, the twofers, to understand. When you live in your rose-colored world, taking your LSD, walking down heroin-ridden streets, riding the heroin highway on your Narcan boat, just remember, it's the twofer that's making it happen. It is the zombie that's letting it happen.
Yeah, and it's duplicitous because we have two, a tale of two cities. We've got the police department going to the JLMC for their contract. And at a meeting, I had one of the mayor's supporters tell me, well, they're going to have a hard time at the JLMC because he said, I don't have to tell you what the first element is when you go to the JLMC. You have to prove the city's ability to pay. Well, I'm kind of laughing because that's, because I've heard the city whining about money. They wanted money for stamps. They want money. They want the employees to pay for people who were working for the city, a percentage. And
but we're giving $38,000 pay raises in the budget.
That's right. And the other thing is that while they're doing that, the mayor's talking about $4 million surplus, and the target is to be having a $6 million in free cash after the next year with this new budget. So my advice to the police union, get a tape of that when he made that comment about he's got $4 million in the bank and he's planning on $6 million next year, and take that to the arbitration with you.
Yeah, definitely, because you know what? I'm done with this. This is just getting to be ridiculous. And obviously, people, it's going to be a great weekend. We'll see you on Friday next week, Chip.
Yeah.
And remember, people, go out there and stay angry.
Stay angry.
Have a good
See you
weekend.
Friday.